Hello, welcome to another episode of CripChat your podcast on everything disability. With me as usual is Amy, David, and Tim. So, Tim, what are we chatting about tonight?
Tonight we're going to be talking about discrimination and mainly discrimination during this COVID crisis. So, shall I kick us off in this conversation, or has anyone got any other points they want to contribute about this, if they've experienced anything recently?
Now start us off and then we'll talk about our experiences. And thank you for having us again on the show, Jonathan. Yeah, no, start us off, Tim.
Yeah, right. So, I guess the first point we should make about discrimination, especially during COVID, is some of you might have seen that Dylan Alcott was recently, he called out the US Open on Twitter for canning the wheelchair tennis side of the event because I guess event organizers thought, oh, well, people with disabilities are high risk, so we shouldn't have the events. And although they also cut other events, it goes deeper than that. It's discrimination based on preconceived notions about people with disabilities and their health. And I fear that might become an issue not just in sports, but as a whole in society. We might have more issues with people discriminating because they wrongly believe that people with disabilities are at higher risk of carrying a sickness or being sick. And I guess those sort of backwards attitudes might be a problem for people with disabilities in society during this time.
Look, people got to understand this, and I think it's got to be put out there. People who are disabled, who have a disability, are not sick. They are not sick. Being disabled and being sick are two completely different things. And people need to understand that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
They have to understand that if they want to help, people with disability have a mind of their own. Ask, do you need help? And if they do say yes, then ask, how can I help you?
and exactly.
Instead, and don't break the the safe distancing, because that's all they do. They just
Yeah,
grab you
people
and they
need
take you.
to. That's right. Exactly. People need to draw the line as to understanding the social model of disability as opposed to the medical model. So, does everyone understand what the medical model as opposed to the social model of disability is?
yeah, I can provide a bit more background into that for everyone because my role, I'm an occupational therapy student, so I have understood both models. But in the medical model, it focuses on, I guess, the biology side of things, like if you have a physical deformity or something stopping you from being able to complete a task, it focuses on that and doesn't focus on your abilities and what you can do. And in the social model, it focuses on what you can do and what, I guess, accommodations can be put in place in society through universal design or through providing a person with a piece of equipment that would let them participate unhindered.
Trying to say thank you,
Sorry about that.
Jessica,
Yeah, it's all good.
for
Welcome back. I guess now we're slowly shifting away from the medical model and slowly getting to the social model. However, we are getting there. So we're still stuck. People are still stuck on the medical model of disability. So how do we address that?
Yeah, well, we really address that through education. I mean, my first introduction to the social model of disability in a formal way was at university. So it's good to see that the education is beginning with, I guess, the health professionals who work with us disabled people, and now they are using that model themselves. But it also needs to extend beyond that. And education, I always believe, is at the key for everything, for fixing society, and in particular, the negative attitudes that people face, not just people with disabilities, but all people. It stems from education. So I guess if we can teach the social model of disability through schools, education programs, and just, I guess, get that message out there, because the medical model has been around for so long. It has been so ingrained in society and people's views, and we still see a lot of that today.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, our team. And just one more thing when we're on this subject. I realized that we're labeling people with disability as disabled people. Um, that now we gotta shift. We don't, I realize that it's not acceptable to call people disabled people, but rather people with disability.
Yeah, it depends on the person. Like, it's very much a thing that's still up for debate, I guess, if you want to call it the disabled community. Some people are comfortable with the model and some are not. Like, I guess some people use it as an identity and some people are uncomfortable with it. And I myself have days where I'm comfortable saying I'm a disabled person, and sometimes I'm comfortable just being a person with a disability. I guess the view on disability can be fluid in yourself and society, but I believe the correct way to refer to people is person with disability, and that's how we refer to it in the medical side of things, because you're putting the person first. But yes, if I do say disabled person, I don't mean it as a term of offense. It's just I kind of use the terms interchangeably when I'm not talking in a medical setting, because for me it can be a thing of identity if I'm feeling okay with it, but if not, I'll just say person with disability. But yeah, I think terminology, working that out in the community as a whole, is another thing that we all need to address, because that's how we are going to present ourselves to others in order to get our points across. So also just getting terminology right ourselves, and then so people know how to refer to us.
Now,
Yeah,
see,
true.
why we need to know what we're talking about, so we don't stumble
Yeah, we kind of go off on
over
tangents,
words,
but
and
it's related to
our
the topic.
community, and be able to know what we're talking about before they ask a question that we can't answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But I guess, like you said, it's more now about the education, educating people about what is acceptable and what is not.
Yeah,
Because
that's why
a
we
lot
do
of
the
things
chat,
are
so people
changing.
know.
Yeah, and a lot of things are changing now. We don't have disabled toilets. We have now accessible toilets. So things are slowly getting there. But like you said, we still need to educate, and we need to move away from the medical model and start going towards the social model.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Well, what are your thoughts, Jonathan?
Here's the thing. Now, this is a personal story, but the whole reason why I started this charity was as a teenager. I was sick of how disabled, sorry, persons with disability are perceived by younger kids as the person who walks funny, the person who talks funny, or them asking their parents and pointing, what's wrong with him or her? So I guess from my perspective, while I don't enjoy discrimination, it has made me a stronger person to now I'm in a position to advocate for other people.
And that's right. That's correct. We've got to continue to advocate for things like this. Everyone has a personal story about I guess they feel like they were worthy. They feel like they belong, and it's because of the first thing that comes to our mind is the disability that we have, and it should not be this way. We should be in a more inclusive in society. We should educate people, like we mentioned before. Avoid the discrimination where necessary. Yeah. David.
Well,
David. Is David with
huh?
us? Are you with
Yes, David's
us?
here. Yes.
Yeah, you've had some stories where people were discriminative against you. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people think. Some people think I'm faking it.
Uh,
Ooh. Yeah.
Try to hold the microphone a bit closer.
Your microphone a bit closer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, you're good. You're
that's
good.
good.
So
Go
you say that
on.
people think that you're faking it.
Yeah.
So what do you tell them?
Sometimes the best thing is just to ignore them.
Yeah. But if you ignore them, they're gonna come back at you.
No, but see, once you start creating conflict,
Yep.
then they're gonna come back also. Still.
True.
Yeah,
True.
that's a good point you raise. If you're like facing discrimination, you have to read how the person is interacting with you. If they're saying it in an aggressive manner, in a passive, like offhanded comment manner, because how you respond could get you hurt. For instance, if someone says aggressively to you, "Oh God, I hate people like you," because they see you out wearing a mask and you're in a wheelchair or something, and you respond, "Oh, I hate people like you too," or something, what's stopping them from swinging around and smashing you in the face? So, like, if you put yourself in a dangerous situation by saying the wrong thing, that's something you have to be careful of. So, sometimes it's best to ignore people, and sometimes it's safe to say something back, but be careful with what you say because you don't want to get hurt, because you can be at more risk of getting hurt because of the situations we're in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because especially when I can't see them and I can't see it coming to me. But at the end, a lot of people tell me that I'm faking it because they think I can see, and those that think that I can see are scared because I'm not a small bloke.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
that's the issue
agree.
you face with, like, sort of, I guess you could call it invisible or not as visible disabilities, because people can't really see evidence of your disability, so they'll question you on it and try bully you for it
Yeah.
or be a pain in your ass about it, really.
And the best way to tackle it, I reckon, I tell them, thank you. Just because I look better than you doesn't mean I haven't got a disability. I'm not blind.
Yeah. There's many ways to go about it, but
There's, there's ways
um,
of just answering them back, but
but
there's
I guess
ways that they can't come back from.
yeah, I know. I agree with what Tim is saying. You gotta read the person
Yeah.
before you take it to the next step. The next action that you take will depend will either cost you or yeah, you'll be able to move on with life. So it's important to read the person before
You gotta read the
you actually
situation.
carry out the action.
Yeah, and I guess that sort of leads to the next point from there. If someone makes an offhand comment or something offensive towards you, is how do you cope with that also mentally, not just coping with the situation by providing a comment or ignoring them, but if you find it gets to you, what ways are there that you can make it so you're not being distressed by the situation? Like, you could talk with friends about it. Like, if you have other friends with disabilities, even just sharing that experience can make it a lot easier to process.
But I would step back and say, what do you do in that moment? Is there a way you can react to make it a teachable moment for the person discriminating against you?
I mean, yeah, you can turn it into a teachable moment, but it goes back to, I guess, reading the person prior, like their manner, whether they're doing the thing in an angry tone or whether it's not intentional. But, like, I guess you have to read the situation first, and in making it a teachable moment, it can be a difficult thing. For instance, you might not have the energy that day to explain to someone that, oh, for instance, just because I'm in a wheelchair, it doesn't mean I'm sick or have COVID or I'm at risk to myself or someone else. So, I mean, some days you might have the energy to say that to people who say that to you, and some days you might not, and you might just ignore it. So it can be a very fluid thing, and don't get upset with yourself if some days you do have the energy to call people out and teach them why they shouldn't have those attitudes or beliefs. But yeah, it's a very fluid thing, and it changes from day to day and person to person. But yeah, my recommendation is read the person before you try to respond.
And also, some people think that because you are on a wheelchair and that you are a person with a disability, you are a high risk of getting COVID-19. That's not the situation in most cases. Being disabled does not mean you're sick. I've mentioned that before. So what I understand, from my understanding, people that are at risk of getting COVID-19 or at a greater risk of getting the COVID are people who are senior and people who have low immunity. Nothing about having a disability.
Yeah, also like people's line of work puts them in more risk. For instance, nurses and stuff are at much higher risk than the general public, and even they face discrimination. They're not disabled, and in this crisis, people have gone out their way to be terrible to frontline health workers, and hurt them, attack them, yell slurs at them. You see some really odd behavior during this time. Pandemics bring out the worst in people.
Yeah, true.
So especially during this time, I reckon being playing it safe is probably the best method. If someone says something to you, ignore it or brush it off. Use it as a teachable moment if you deem it safe to. But yeah.
Exactly. It all comes back to the teacher mind and the education. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. So what happens if you do get discriminated against?
Yeah, well, if you do feel discrimination, my suggestions are, depending how long the discrimination is going for, like the event, for instance, I don't really think this would happen, but this is a very out there scenario. Say a shop owner won't let you into their store because they think you're high risk or something. That's when you could, I guess, get your phone out and record the situation, and then you could potentially report that person or their business for being discriminatory. When it's people individually being discriminatory, that's when it gets a bit difficult. Well, that's where you can choose to either ignore it or use it as a teachable moment.
I've had a situation where I was walking into a news agency and I was using a mobile phone as a GPS.
Yep.
The guy told me off. He goes, "You don't video camera us." Thinks I was video cameraing him.
Yeah. So what happened after that, David?
I walked out.
Yeah. So you ignored the situation.
I did go back, but when he wasn't there.
Okay. Yeah.
I mainly didn't go there anymore.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess it's depending on the situation. That's when you take the necessary action. Yeah, it's good to know that we don't live in a perfect world. Ideally, we are are discriminated against on a daily basis. And so you just gotta move on with your life and just continue to educate. Just continue to be positive. You shouldn't let anyone bring you down. Yeah, and
I know.
if there's always an alternative. So if you are discriminated against, you could choose another means of, going to that shop or going to another shop. Sorry, or just hanging around a different crowd. It's good to be
Yeah.
positive.
And another thing you could do if you are discriminated against is you can actually go to the Human Rights Commission. Like if you can confirm you were discriminated against on the basis of your disability, you can make a complaint and then they'll investigate it and hopefully brings about change that way.
Yeah.
I can share a story from my personal life.
Yep.
So, for those of you who don't know, I'm a director of Physical Disability Australia. And it does a lot of advocacy work which leads to me being invited to various consultations. So one day I was invited to a consultation with, and here's the funny part, the Australian Human Rights Commission. And I don't drive, and I didn't want my parents to drive me to the venue. So on the way there, I got a taxi, and the taxi driver went out of his way and walked me from the taxi to the room. But after the consultation, I booked the taxi, and the first cab off the rank refused to take me because I was unaccompanied by a caregiver. So my point is, within a day, you can experience the most inclusive experience experience all the worst forms of discrimination. It doesn't matter your position, but keep your chin up, because the more we talk about it, and more importantly, complain about it, the more we achieve systemic change.
That's right. That's right. And I'm sorry you had to go through that, Jonathan. But like I said, we all face discrimination on a daily basis. It's just that how we respond to it keeps us going.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yeah. So, any last word of advice you want to give to the audience on how to avoid discrimination?
Can you repeat that again? Sorry.
So any last words of advice on how to avoid discrimination or how to keep yourself, positive when you do face discrimination?
Yeah, I guess keeping positive is all you can really do about it, but don't feel bad if you can't feel positive about it, because some days, it's just harder than others. But what you can do is talk about it with friends, complain, of course, if you can, to change the situation. Like, for example, if you get discriminated against by a company, taxi, shops, anything like that, where you can, I guess, advocate for change, do so. And in society, we advocate for change through getting the message out there. And you can do that by not so much complaining, but making people aware of what happens to you, because many able-bodied people don't know what it's like to be disabled. They don't know what discrimination we face on a daily basis. And when we bring that to light, people become educated about it. They become more self-aware, and they'll learn to not only stop that behavior themselves, but to call it out to others and educate other people. So
Knowledge
if you
is
face
the
discrimination,
best skill.
yeah, go on.
Knowledge is the best skill.
Yeah,
Because if they
exactly.
don't know they're doing something wrong, then they're gonna continue doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Once they know it's wrong what they do, then they won't do it. But if any normal human being has got a conscience, and their conscience
Yeah.
won't let them do what they do that.
yeah. So I guess the final point is, if it's safe to do so, use awkward moments or moments of discrimination as teachable moments to help people understand what they're doing wrong and to not do it again.
Yeah.
If anyone gives me sort of word, all I go. Sometimes I just tell them God bless you, and then they don't talk no more.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'm fighting them with good words.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But in saying that, you gotta always keep a positive mindset and always have that someone you could talk to. You can, I guess, discuss things with them. Don't always keep it inside, bottled inside.
No, that's the worst thing you can do.
That is
You'll
the
get
worst thing you
depressed,
can do.
and you'll have no one to talk to, and
It's no good. It's no good for your health and for your
it won't be good
mentality.
for your health either.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, yeah, always keep a positive mindset. Yeah.
And remember, there's always peer support and advocacy groups out there. Sometimes sharing your experience is the first step to changing it for the other person who may face it in the future.
All good.
Okay. You've been watching CripChat, your weekly podcast on everything disability. Remember, please share, like, and subscribe to help us grow. And if you have a suggestion about what we should talk about, don't be shy. Facebook and YouTube created comments for a reason. So suggest a topic now. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
See you.
Nice to talk to you. See you next week.